Are you here? Well, the answer, my friend, is yes. It is the Paul Leslie Hour, with a review of Bob Dylan's March 18th, 2024 concert in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Fayetteville is commonly known as Fayetteville, but we'll say Fayetteville, North Carolina. Shall we listen?
Hey, it's me. I'll be telling you my thoughts on the March 18, 2024 Bob Dylan concert from the Rough and Rowdy Ways tour. I'll also share a video clip of someone with me who talks about seeing Bob Dylan for the first time. This was my third time seeing a show from Bob Dylan's Rough and Rowdy Ways tour, which began in 2021. It's always an experience unlike any other. It takes on a special meaning that seems to go beyond being just entertainment. There is certainly some of that, but for the people who go see Bob Dylan, it's a chance to reconnect with certain parts of themselves that they don't always access. I'd never been to Fayetteville, North Carolina. This venue was close to a friend of mine, a charming pal called Robert McCready, who is also a writer. A little detour had caused a delay, but my hunger was real. A chance to scarf down food at Taco Bell put us in touch with a man intent on robbing us. We all live on the boulevard of crime once in a while, but crisis averted. The Crown Theater is a pleasant venue from the 1960s that seats about 2,400 people. I prefer antiquated over modern when it comes to live shows. I'm told the theater will close down next year to make way for something new. I wondered if this was the only time Bob Dylan would perform there. Bob Dylan hasn't been too pleased with the ubiquity of cell phones. They sure can put a damper on having a meaningful evening. This time would be different. Everyone's phones were locked in a pouch. Maybe some don't like it, but I felt it's for our own good. There was a mad rush as the ushers announced 1 minute until the doors would close. Then 30 seconds, even 15 seconds. I realized we weren't going to make it for the first song. But hey, we were still alive and had our wallets and tickets. Once inside, we settled in the especially dark room where we would focus on the words and melodies for the next almost 2 hours. A lot of Bob Dylan fans have some kind of tradition that they follow when going to his shows. I read about a guy named Film, Philm, who said to him it's going to Waffle House after the concert. My tradition began by talking to strangers after the show to find out what they thought. I met a very eccentric guy in Augusta, Georgia, who came all the way from Sweden to see the show. That's morphed into the practice of bringing someone with me who has never seen Bob Dylan before. Robert McCready was the one this time. So let's see a little video clip of Robert telling me what stood out to him. Watch. From tonight, was there a most exciting or most interesting part for you?
We missed the first song.
Right.
But I'm glad that I Contain Multitudes was something that we got to see together.
Right.
And I got to hear that good line. I brought my monocular telescope, and I thought that was the best decision I ever made. They said no binoculars. It was not binoculars, sir. It's just a monocular. No one called us out, so that was good. But I liked to be able to see, exactly what Bob Dylan looked like. There wasn't a big screen. Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't have been blurry because I had my glasses. But I wouldn't have been able to see him. So I really liked seeing the details. I liked seeing, the way his pants were designed, the white shoes, the flames on his coat. I could tell that he was really trying for the audience. I liked that a lot. And I also felt very excited to hear Every Grain of Sand, which you told me that he ends every show with. And I was happy to see that. And I was also happy to see the way he doesn't bow. He just kind of moves his coat out of the way and puts his hand on his hip. And then he undoes his hand on the hip and walks off the stage. Mm-hmm. It was like he was there to do a job, but he was present and he wasn't just going through the motions. He seemed capable. He seemed fun. He seemed like he could just go on forever. I wondered, is he going to be doing this when he's 90? Yeah. I think he might be.
Yeah. Well, Willie Nelson is 90 years old, and he's still out there.
Right.
Performing and recording.
And Bob Dylan would be doing the same thing if he's still here and still able. And I think it's a great thing because his lyrics are good.
Thanks for the observations, Robert. Compared to the other shows I saw from the Rough and Rowdy Ways tour, it seemed there was a lighter approach. Or who knows, maybe I just perceived it that way. It looked like Bob Dylan was having fun. One thing I like is it sounded like Bob's vocals were brought forward in the mix. Bob's piano playing was more rollicking, and the band seemed more jubilant, although the set list was roughly the same. Dylan has been playing more songs from Rough and Rowdy Ways than from any other source. They did 9 songs from that album. There were a few highlights. Black Rider and My Own Version of You seemed to segue into one another. These songs are eerie and I like them more and more. There were 2 great changes in the show. For one, the addition of the Johnny Cash song, Big River, and an infectious revamped version of When I Paint My Masterpiece. Although the words remained the same, the melody sounded like it was replaced with Irving Berlin's Puttin' on the Ritz and had a samba feel. The band continues to feature Doug Lancio and Bob Britt on guitars, and the faithful Donnie Herron, who is approaching 20 years with the band, on lap steel and pedal steel. The new addition was Jerry Pentecost on drums. You should look him up. Of course, longtime bassist, since 1989, Tony Gagne played great and added interesting elements, which could be said of the whole band. They complement Bob perfectly. The band helps keep the shows fresh and interesting. After the concert, we headed down to Florence, South Carolina, where we recorded the conversation about the show. I liked Robert's takes. I was glad Robert mentioned the lyrics. I felt that although Bob Dylan composes out-of-this-world melodies, he's known for his lyrics. I found myself focusing on the words like never before. They're almost like the star of the show. Learning the lyrics, I could anticipate each line and feel a sense of satisfaction with their delivery. Songs like I Contain Multitudes and Crossing the Rubicon welcome repeated listening, and new interpretations by Bob and the band can color your own understanding of the songs. As Robert mentioned, all of the shows on the Rough and Rowdy Ways tour end with Every Grain of Sand. Is there any song that comes close, save Hymns? When I think of the 3 shows I've seen from this tour, I vividly recall the evocative delivery of those final lines before he leaves the stage. I am hanging in the balance of the reality of man, like every sparrow falling, like every grain of sand. Unreal. No matter what your religious persuasion is, it's hard to not be affected by it. There will be more tour dates across the Southeast into April. Then this summer, he'll hit the road with Willie Nelson and other legends. More innovations are undoubtedly in store. Until then, I'll sit with my memories from Fayetteville.